The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. As the Philippines celebrates a Labor Day, protests are ongoing in various parts of the country as labor groups call for adequate government aid for displaced workers, higher minimum wage, and safe and effective vaccines. To tell us more, we have with us live via Zoom Mr. Alan Tanhusay. He's the spokesperson of the Associated Labor Unions Trade Union Congress of the Philippines. Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon sa ating mga kababayan.
Sir, ano po yung pangunahing panawagan po ng ating mga Pilipino manggagawa ngayong Labor Day?
Yes, ang pangunahing panawagan namin sa ngayon ay kailangan magkaroon talaga ng mass vaccination sa mga manggagawa. No? Hindi natin masiguro na talagang magiging successful yung ating economic recovery kung ang mga manggagawa natin ay hindi pa nababakunahan. So yun ang aming agenda, lalong-lalo na ngayong hapon dito sa Job Summit na gagawin. Mass vaccination ang aming panawagan. At ikalawa, ang aming panawagan ay ituloy yung pamimigay ng wage subsidies sa mga manggagawa dahil so far, since March last year, 600,000 workers pa lamang ang nabigyan ng cash assistance mula sa DOLE at sa DTI. So kulang na kulang po ito compare doon sa dami ng mga manggagawang nawalan ng trabaho sa kasalukuyan.
Sir, kanina po nakapanayan po namin yung si Manila Police Director, si Mr. Francisco, at ang sabi po niya yung mga protesters po hindi pinahintulutang makapasok sa liwasang Bonifacio in observance of COVID protocols. Ano po ang inyong pananaw tungkol dito?
Well, sana nagkaroon yan ng sana nagkaroon ho yan ng prior coordination with the PNP, no? Although hindi namin tinutuligsa yung mga organisasyon o yung grupong yan ay pagpos ay nire-respeto natin ang kanilang pamamahayag. Pero ang amin sanang panawagan ay sana nagkaroon ng coordination ang organizer ng rally na yan at yung PNP.
Sir, alam po natin marami po kayong nais na maging pagbabago, but is there anything right now that the Filipino workers are celebrating at this time?
Well, meron naman kahit wala tayong celebration na tinatawag, but we are taking cognizance of the hardship, we are taking cognizance of the bravery of the Filipino worker kasi mahigit isang taon na tayo nasa krisis, no? Araw-araw na nakikipagsapalaran ng mga manggagawa na pumasok sa trabaho para maitaguyod ng maayos ang kanilang pamilya at tumulong na umunlad yung ating ekonomiya. So today may not be a good day for celebration, pero we remember and we honor the efforts of the Filipino workers for this country and for their families.
Sir, President Duterte's term is winding down. What else can he do, this administration, to perhaps improve the situation of workers in the country?
Well, President Duterte has a few months left. Tama-tama ito sa kanyang gagawin mamayang hapon sa Job Summit kung saan doon siya magsasalita. At pakikinggan natin kung ano yung kanilang o particularly kung ano yung nasa puso at isipan ni Pangulong Duterte na strategy para makarecover tayo, para makaahon tayo dito sa economic crisis na dinadanas nating lahat. So very important yung sasabihin ni Pangulong Duterte mamaya dahil marami pong umaasa, marami pong naghihintay kung ano ang direksyon, kung ano yung gustong mangyari ni Pangulong Duterte upang makaahon tayong lahat mula dito sa kahirapan, mula sa malawak na unemployment, mula sa malawak na bumabagsak na purchasing power ng minimum wages, for example, at kakulangan sa mga bakuna. So napaka-importante po ng statement ni Pangulong Duterte mamaya para sa ating lahat.
Sir, looking forward, what kind of leaders will the ALU-TUCP support in the upcoming elections?
Well, una-una siguro based doon sa mga natutunan natin sa mga nakaraan, siguro ito yung leadership na yung meron siyang kakayahan na ipunin ang lakas at talino ng mga government bureaucracy, no? Because for us, ang susunod na administrasyon ay napaka-importante sa pagtuloy-tuloy mula sa krisis na ito, no? Kinakailangan talagang aktibo yung mga government agencies natin sa pagbibigay ng serbisyo sa ating mga mamamayan. So sa amin, napaka-importante sa isang leader na kaya niyang i-rally behind him ang puwersa ng government bureaucracy at gamitin yung government bureaucracy nito na magserbisyo sa taong bayan.
Sir Alan, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Happy Labor Day po sa inyo. Thank you. And that's Mr. Alan Tanhusay, spokesperson of the Associated Labor Unions Trade Union Congress of the Philippines. Now, as the first world starts to ease restrictions and open up borders to vaccinated individuals, it's a different story in third world countries where COVID-19 infections and deaths continue to rise. Let's watch this from Bloomberg's Wall Street Week.
Larry Summers calls it a tale of two worlds. The United States is lifting COVID restrictions. Europe is getting ready to open its borders to vaccinated Americans this summer, and bars and restaurants in Great Britain are open for business again. But countries like Brazil and India are just now facing the worst of the pandemic.
And naturally the system starts creaking. I mean, it happened in New York, it happened in many cities of the United States, it happened in Italy.
Brazil has now recorded more than 14 million COVID cases and 395,000 deaths. But President Bolsonaro opposes lockdown measures and has tried to reverse restrictions imposed by local authorities. Brazil's Congress has launched an inquiry into the government's handling of the coronavirus pandemic.
These are places where we have to have a global community, because we also have to understand that the viruses that are present there will eventually move out and enter other parts of the country.
It's a similar story in India. Until March, India was recording fewer daily new cases than countries like Germany and France. But now a giant second wave makes India the world's hardest hit nation.
The situation in India right now is, shall I say, dire. All across the country,
India is breaking world records with more than 350,000 new daily infections and more than 3,000 deaths per day. But officials estimate that the number could be 10 times higher than that because of lack of testing outside of big cities and poor reporting. Prime Minister Modi's leadership is coming into question with the surging caseload. He and his top ministers encouraged vast gatherings of unmasked people at jumbo election rallies and at a month-long Hindu festival that brings millions of pilgrims to a small town on the Ganges.
I think there was a perception that that COVID had been done and dusted back in January, February of this year. And everything was opened up, the rallies, the gatherings, the weddings. Obviously, given the situation right now, it was a mistake.
Now the nation faces severe oxygen shortages at hospitals and is turning to the world for help. The White House is lending a hand by sending PPE, ventilators, and test kits.
We are sending immediately a whole series of help that he needs, including providing for those remdesivir and other drugs that are able to deal with this and prevent, in some cases, but help recovery.
Now, as vaccine hesitancy remains among some Filipinos, a health expert suggests tapping communication experts for help. Speaking to One News Now, UP College of Public Health Dean Dr. Vicento Belizario Jr. said that we should eliminate vaccine hesitancy among the public. With this, Belizario advised to tap communication experts to change their attitude towards vaccines.
Of course, we want to minimize, reduce, if not eliminate, the vaccine hesitancy that is still quite in our midst, no, Sean? And it's not as simple as telling these people that they're actually not deciding in favor of one's health and the health of the people, but it's actually entailing now more creative means.
Meanwhile, health experts say the health department and the FDA should step up to stop the illegal dispensing of ivermectin. UP College of Public Health Dean Dr. Vicente Belisario Jr. said there is a lack of action on ivermectin already being prescribed and dispensed to individuals. This despite existing regulations to prevent dispensing of ivermectin for human use. Belisario added that since these medications lack the needed permits, one cannot be absolutely sure that it meets regulation standards or if it's even safe to take.
I think it could be better. In fact, just before those products got to the hands of the people, it's actually in the hands of the people. I think now Department of Health and FDA is doing what it can. However, just like COVID, the product is already in the hands of the people and part of in the hands of those who are dispensing.
PhilHealth urges the public to report any incident of healthcare providers declaring minor respiratory symptoms as COVID-19. According to PhilHealth President and CEO Dante Giran, there are reports of claim and manipulation being committed by healthcare providers with the intention of collecting higher reimbursements from the state insurer. Thus, PhilHealth calls on the public to help in providing proof to these misdeeds and assured protection of whistleblowers and complete confidentiality of reports. Giran adds that they will not hesitate to use the full force of the law to those caught engaging in these practices. A House lawmaker seeks to extend the Bayanihan 2 law due to the surge in COVID-19 cases. Camarines Representative El Rey Villafuerte has filed a bill extending the validity of Bayanihan 2 until December or until the end of December. This is to continue the implementation of recovery and stimulus measures to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. The bill also covers the government's powers to provide emergency assistance to affected Filipinos and finance emergency initiatives to keep the economy afloat. The validity of the Bayanihan 2 law ends on June 30 this year. The Disneyland theme park in California finally reopens its doors to residents after being closed for a year because of the pandemic. Now, how will Disney manage the influx of people and what are their measures in ensuring people's safety? This Bloomberg report tells us how.
Well, the happiest place on earth is once again pretty happy. I mean, this is an unusual company. I mean, you had Chairman Bob Iger there, taking pictures with his phone, beaming like a kid. Bob Chapek, the CEO there, raised the flag and gave a little pep talk to employees. People were waiting hours just to kind of be the first to walk in, even though at 25% of capacity, you're probably going to have pretty much a lot of room when you're there.
So talk to us about the new process, the new setup for tickets, the new reservation system, and how that all works if you want to go to Disneyland right now.
Yeah, this is a first for the theme parks. You've got to buy your ticket in advance, reserve a specific park and a specific day. Right now, it's only limited to California residents. And even with those limitations, they've sold out a lot of days. You pretty much can't get a Saturday in May or June right now. There's a lot of days you can maybe just go to California Adventure. One of the tricks people figured out is if you buy a park hopper ticket, which gets you into both Disneyland and California Adventure, costs about $50 more on an already pricey ticket, but then you get to go to Disney later on in the afternoon. So demand is there. People want to get out. Well, I think the indication, all the top brass down there today, just how important this business is. When TV was going into transition a few years ago, the parks were delivering almost $7 billion a year in profit. Last year, they lost money. So to have that money come back at a time when they're investing so much in TV, I mean, Disney stock has done terrifically because they've been able to sign up a lot of subscribers to Disney Plus and their other streaming services, but it still costs a lot of money to feed those beasts. And the parks are really, Bob Iger said this numerous times, really kind of the heart and soul of it. There's this direct connection to the consumer, to watch these things come to life, these movies and TV shows. And so it's a very important business for Disney.
So talk to us about what's to come the rest of the year. Obviously, there could be potentially a really big summer travel season. You've got theaters reopening. What are you watching?
Well, on all fronts, you know, we're going to see capacity limits start to rise, so they'll get more people in the parks, and they're going to be busy. I think people, particularly in parks they can drive to, like Disneyland, are going to do quite well. They've learned, you know, we're seeing this in other entertainment businesses, to cut costs, work with less people, and so profits could come back, you know, even more dramatically once the consumer returns. People got a lot of money to spend still. So we're watching that. We're watching, of course, this fantastic transition in the movie business, where, you know, you've got a movie like Godzilla that came out. That's a Warner Brothers movie, but it was released online at the same time as in theaters, and it's still done over $400 million in theaters. So if Disney can pull that off with some of its other movies coming out this year that they've held off on, Black Widow, The Eternals, you know, this could be quite a comeback year for them.
And that is how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later again at 2:15 in the afternoon as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.